Hello everyone. In this video I will try to address a question about conscious parenting, and I will mention a few points that I feel could be of help and are important, but this is a very big subject, and in fact most of the videos I've been addressing very big subjects, and it's even not fair for the subjects because they need a lot of time and content and processing, and it's also not fair for the seekers because they are not getting enough material for navigation. But I'll do my best at least to bring pointers and invite you to have the courage of the spirit, the inquisitiveness of the mind, the ability to inquire, to look objectively, to process, and to find more answers. And, I think nowadays there are also so many magnificent teachers that are addressing different parts of these subjects. So I think it could be really just pointers. So to address conscious parenting, I would like to start before the stages that are pre-conceiving and having a baby. I think one is that it's very important for the parents to consider that they are bringing a being into life. It's not just a biological being, it's a soul. And, some people differ with me about definition of soul, so I am using the classical traditional definition that the soul is an entity that travels, sometimes from one lifetime to another, and sometimes in other traditions, a soul that goes to hell and heaven. There's so many systems about it, but most of them are in agreement of an entity, and this entity incarnates, like in different lifetimes. So to think that way, I think it's really important for the parents to spend time praying, meditating, cleansing their systems. I think it's very important for the male to focus on their DNA, genes, semen, cleanse them, visualize light and clear radiance to come, and think that every sperm is like as if it's made of diamonds. Its head is like a jeweled entity, diamonds. And to think of the light and the radiance, making this diamond be cleansed from the conditioning of childhood and human issues that we carry, through generations upon generations of DNA transmission. The same thing for the female, to spend really time of prayer, of meditation, of cleansing of the womb, and the cleansing of the eggs. So the eggs is released from the content of merging with mother, father, conditioning, so the eggs become healthy and becomes a good fertile ground for the nourishment of the baby to come. Also, to spend time trying to sense if there is a soul knocking on the door, if they feel a child wanna come. Sometimes when a couple in love and wanna have a baby, sometimes a few souls come knocking on the door. They wanna enter, they wanna have a chance to live, a chance to bring their grace and heal from their karma and evolve as part of the law of creation. So I think it's very important for the two parents to spend a little time every night, every day, to feel the presence of those souls and to have more selectivity, to pray for the divine, to pray for the great being, to pray for the higher entities that they may be in connection with, to grant them a good soul, to grant them a soul that has so much grace and love, to help with the evolution and with the challenge of this time. It's not just a matter of having baby, it's not just biological, animalistic fulfillment, which is really very important to honor that, but also that we are also given the chance to select. And when you zoom in and when you pray more, you might feel one soul is closer to your nature, the nature of the parents and the nature of the soul that they would like to have to raise, and then to invite it to come. This might take time. Conscious pregnancy is not just infused by love and by instinct, you know. They are really powerful, but the spirit has to interfere with, consciousness has to interfere with this process. I think another piece that's also very important, let me see how to bring it without offending some people. Some teachers, you know, and I am really, you know how I am about some of those teachers. They come with ideas of their own about what enlightenment requires and what soul evolution requires. They don't have even sometimes the self-reflection to see, what if this is their views? What if this is not reality, you know? Sometimes it's really like surprising for me that a man will come with a teaching about the woman and he doesn't have a womb, especially when it comes to children. You know, men don't have a womb. They don't know what pregnancy does. They really don't know the stages that the female goes through the pregnancy. You know, they look at it that it's going to take time and going to take attention and it causes so much trouble, and they think that will be interference with reaching enlightenment and living in enlightenment. You know, in one hand it does, but so does everything else. Life poses a challenge to being in the enlightened being, in the enlightened field, you know. But from my knowledge, from my experience, from the years I spent, you know, in this field, and also witnessing it in my wife when she got pregnant, wives when they got pregnant, and the processes they went through is really remarkable. I believe that the female, within 9 months, if she goes through pregnancy in a conscious way, has the chance to realize the enlightened nature and actualize the enlightened nature with all its attributes. How is that? Pregnancy, as you know, the most obvious thing is that it changes the biochemistry of the body, and it changes the shape and the form of the body. The pelvis begins to open, the spine begins to adjust. If you witness how the body goes through so many different stages, this must be affecting the body, the mind, the psyche, and the soul of the female as she goes through this awesome process. It's like having, you know, maybe hundreds of Rolfing sessions and bioenergetic sessions and so many sessions that are opening up the body, changing the biochemistry in it. And also, as the body opens up, and also as the soul of the baby begin to land in the womb, and usually they say it gets stationed in the womb by the 3rd month, the essence of the mother begin also to unfold. In the first 3 months, the body opens up and there is meltdown of the negative essential state, of the personality essential state. So often you hear the female going through feeling of nausea, feeling of fear or sadness, or craving different elements, you know. because her body is calling for different, maybe magnesium, calcium, all of those things. But also she is releasing the toxicity of the personality. That's what causes fear and nausea and grief and depressions and fluctuation. As this layer lifts off, by time the body begin to fill in with positive essential states. And usually the soul of the female try to match the soul of the baby in the womb as it develops its fusion of essence and body. The soul of the baby is not just biological development happening in the body. The soul of the baby is also infusing the body of the baby with the different essential state that the soul brings into this lifetime. So whatever the soul is feeling, it begin to shape the body with those qualities. And the soul itself is full of essence. The soul of the baby is full of essence. And that affects the soul and the essence of the mother. They begin to match it, and the mothering instinct begin also to orchestrate this matching process, which is really magnificent. So the female begin to experience more and more essential states, relaxation, fullness, strength, ease, if it is conscious process. If the female begin to release her fears and anxiety and negative merging with mother, her history begin to be cleansed from the body. In this process, by the, if you've seen them by the 8 month or 9 month, they are like juicy mango walking or juicy watermelon walking. They are full of substance, they're glowing, they are not anymore the same old person who was there before this process. So it's good to be conscious that pregnancy is a major way of reaching essence and hopefully reaching the openness and the ease of the absolute. So in 9 months, the female can reach the being and the different aspects of it, while we males might take 30 years to do. So the idea that it is the pregnancy and the children gonna be on the way of enlightenment, I think is a distortion of some gurus and male teachers. I don't think it's true at all. If it is unconscious pregnancy, yes, it could cause all kinds of trouble. So is unconscious marriage, so is unconscious relationship, so is unconscious living. I mean, you name it. It's the unconscious. But the pregnancy is a major process. I mentioned in the beginning about the different souls coming into this existence. Souls are not the same. Some souls are more evolved and some souls are less evolved. As I advised the parents, please pray for a soul that's more evolved to help us with the time we are in. It's a very challenging time on the planet. So we need higher souls that have more capacities to bring light and energy and consciousness and evolution. So pray for that. And the other souls that need help, pray for them to go to find matching parents. As long as you are going through conscious pregnancy, utilize this capacity to invite more conscious, more evolved souls. Some of those souls are highly evolved being, as I said. Some of them are really amazing. So soul stations, soul development differ, like the soul of, for example, one of the highest beings, we hear of is for example, the Karmapa, the Tibetan guru. This being is so enlightened that when he dies, before he dies, he knows where he is going. He leaves a note to tell his disciples to find him after 2 or 3 years in such and such village, at a such and such family. So this soul is dies consciously, navigate in the field consciously, sets the time and sets the situation for its reincarnation. And this is a very high soul, and there are many like that, many high souls that they've done, I mean, not many compared to the, 7 billion humanity, but I think there are many of them more than we think. I think some of the souls, for example, there are souls I call the graduates, and I think they really don't even need to reincarnate. They've done their homework on earth. So they are here as guardians, They come and go to help us. Sometimes they enter a cat to help a child in a family because the child's soul is so evolved and it needs care and love from a higher source. So I've seen some of those souls enter a gerbil, a mouse, a cat or a dog's body in order to keep company with the child for an hour or two. Then the soul goes to continue other tasks in the world. So it's aspiring to think that soul evolution is much, much more than we think. And we do exist as individuated souls. The idea that we are just specks of the absolute and dissolving the absolute, and the absolute does what it wants, please wake up from this. We are individuated beings that have the potential and the free will to evolve or devolve. If you make good sense of your life, you evolve. You have a better reincarnation. If you waste it in indulgence and ego activity, of course you devolve. So this is also very important to keep in mind on which soul to invite, and to create the right environment for it. When there are so many stages in the pregnancy, it's hard to go through, but after pregnancy, the birth, the baby going through the birth canal goes through a massive transformation and coming from a cozy environment of the womb to an environment we really don't know how it is, at that time, whether it's in a hospital or at home. It's good that if the parents can be together through the birth. And it's very important, if it's possible, that the father receives the baby, holds the baby, and talk to the baby. Welcome it, tell it that it has arrived in such and such a place, and that you are the father or the mother, because the mother usually has gone through a lot, but the father could help with this stage, not to rush the baby, to talk to it, to assure it, so the soul that went through the birth canal and all this process get reoriented again in this realm. And also talk to the baby during the pregnancy years. Keep in mind that the baby, the soul, even though on a physical plane and mental, psychological plane, is not developed, it's in the process of developing that, but as a soul, is intelligent, is knowledgeable, it knows directly by feeling, by knowing, and also if we talk to it, it will understand what we say, even if it cannot reciprocate linguistically. If you are sensitive, if you are not afraid of opening your psychic capacities, you will hear the soul communicating to you. You could even ask it what kind of a name will resonate with the frequency of its soul. Ask it for a name, and you might hear in time it wants to be named this way or that way. I believe it's also very important that the baby, the soul, needs male and female in order to complete its evolution. I understand many now couples who are just female or male long to have children. And I honor that. I think it's really beautiful that they allow their instinct to blossom that way. But I believe it's not completely fair for the child. Two females raising, a child, a boy or a girl, is not complete. The baby, especially if it's a boy, need a male energy and need to develop that. So is the female, So I think this is just natural law of creation. It's not prejudice, it's not against. You're a free soul, you have free will to do whatever you choose, but I think honoring the creation and how it is and responding to it objectively gracefully, I think gives this life more richness and more meaningfulness to it, you know. So I hope it's not taken as an attack, but as taken as an advice and a consideration, and to see how can you access those elements that are needed for the child to grow. Of course, when the baby is born and goes through the different developmental stages, I think for you who would like to read some ego psychology, like developmental psychology, you know, and the different stages that in it could help, you know, and the idea that I want to emphasize, that by creation, by the laws of creation, different stages excuse me, are set as part of this development, you know. Like the first few months, the baby cannot sit, cannot walk, cannot talk. It's going through certain development. Then after a few months or a year, it begins to crawl, it begins to move. These are natural developmental stages. And the human baby, if you notice, is more needy than I think most of the animals, you know, except I think you see it closer in the maybe monkeys, how much they close an affinity and carry their baby and children. The human baby is dependent on the parents for a long time. It needs so many things, you know. And some of those needs, like especially in the first stages, especially the first week or two, just to allow the baby to be what it is. Not to try to engage the baby so much with gaining attention and all of those things. The soul of the baby is there, but the soul of the baby, this entity of the baby, is also swimming in the infinite ocean of consciousness, in a pure absolute, in the undifferentiated matrix. And the whole body is just melted essence. You feel the body of those babies is that just like full of substance, maybe just there is no hard muscles, all soft. Even the bones are soft, they are like cartilage. You know? And this body is full of variety of substances that I might mention a little bit about, but to consider that the baby is slowly developing. It doesn't need to respond to your need or what you want from it. It's okay. And that the development of every soul differs from the development of another soul. You know? So to consider that the ego psychology, developmental psychology is useful, it can help, but it is not necessarily the rule. You know, for example, in ego psychology, we say that the baby is in the beginning is in a state of melting. It's a merged state. It's a state of sweetness, openness, melting, and softness, and just, you know, wakes up, gets some breastfeeding, then, you know, just completely melted in itself. And this state is due to the presence of a certain quality of essence that induces relaxation, induces melting. It doesn't generate the energy of action. It generates the energy of meltdown, because the baby needs it to adjust to this world, and so does the mother. So there's beautiful unity between mother and the baby. You always see some pictures of Christ and Mary with this love between them. This happens every day. Every mother is a Mary, every baby is a Christ or another Mary. To look at that this is a reminder of the stages we are in. This state is golden essence. It's for the seer and for the feeler and knower, it feels like melted gold. Sometimes very delicate gold, like yellow gold, sometimes like almost gold water, you know, but it's really golden essence. And the golden essence produces the effect in the system of sweet love. Love, melting, relaxation, surrender, trust, ease. If this stage is allowed, usually this begin to cultivate around 2 months old, and sometimes up to 9 months. Those the first 2 weeks is the state I mentioned about totally immersed in the absolute, in pure awareness. So that need to be not disturbed. Let the soul be in this body in the absolute. So it orients itself, then the merging and the connection begin to happen with mom, then dad, then the environment. Then later on, another quality might start to kick in. And quality of wanting to move, wanting to act, wanting to do, the baby has more control over its body, it can move its hand the way it wants to, begin to learn to sit and crawl and all of this. Another energy is kicking in at that time. This energy has energy of vitality, heat, warmth, action. It's not the energy of melting and softening and relaxation. This is for a seer, for a feeler, knower. It is red essence. So the baby goes from that to the different kind of energies. I think I mentioned them in another video. It is not necessarily this is the way it goes. As I mentioned before, I've seen children start with separation, with the energy of vitality, and at the age of 1.5 and 2, they go to gold. They begin to melt. They begin to soften. So that does not negate the theory about ego development, but it kind of opens it up to include the evolution of the soul. If one soul came with a lot of red energy, with a lot of pomegranate and vitality and aliveness, it's not going to be this sweet, melted baby that we usually see. So I remember when my daughter came, the moment she came out, she even had control to look, to see, to look everything, like her soul was just feisty, and she didn't get to the merge essence till she was 1.5 years old or 2 years old. So I think I've seen it a lot. It's not just my daughter, I've seen it a lot. So it's good that you as a parent to pay attention to the development and the need of the baby and your resonance with it. That the baby needs certain mirroring, certain reflection, certain merging. And if you become sensitive and if you honor your process as a parent, a mother or a father, and try to match it, and if also you're in the work and you know about the developmental stages, please use the book as a guideline, but not as the Holy Bible. It's a book. It helps, it really helps. But the pregnancy and the raising of children is an immense developmental process, not just for the baby, but also for the parents. There were so many feelings I really didn't know till I had children. One of the feelings I felt I reached high level of love and compassion, and I don't want to harm any soul, and you name it, thou shalt not kill, and all of those things. And when I had my child, when child came, and I'm driving, or feel like somebody is really messing up with the traffic, some kind of indignation comes in me, like, how dare you? Don't you know that there is a pregnant woman or there is a child in the car? Such a protectiveness, while before I was on the other side of the picture. I wanted the parents to get out of my way because I am in a hurry. And now when I became a parent, I wanted those who are in a hurry to slow down, to let the parents be. There was so much depth and richness in humanness that had to open. At one time, I felt like a lion, like if anybody comes and dares to harm my child or my wife, I will kill them. And I noticed this instinct in me emerging. I felt, wow, I'm losing my compassion. I'm losing sense of enlightenment and grace. Then I said, no, 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 this is the beautiful animal soul inside us, the protector, you know. I could transform it into wrathful deity, protective deity, but it was beautiful to see there was so much reservoir of love and of energy and of wisdom. I honestly could not have reached it by just being in enlightenment. And when I had the children, I already had my realization of enlightenment, and I was embodying most of the time in that field and in that richness, you know, and it was such a bliss, but there was a prejudice within it, including the prejudice about pregnancy. Life continues, we come and go, and it's so precious. I believe the whole universe, all of the universe, is a giant mechanism to perpetuate, to generate, and to preserve life. Life eternal. It's really eternal. And it's most precious. Please honor it, be in alignment with it, and may this note help pregnant women to find more aspiration and more enjoyment in their pregnancy. And the parents, I mean the fathers too. Because, you know, I felt I was also pregnant when my wife was pregnant. I was so merged with her, you know, it was such a fascinating process of learning and evolution and soul maturation. Take good care. Wish you the best.